Hi, Gloria. It's
Alison
Hicks, Gloria Killian. I believe we met the first time in Troy, Michigan at the Innocence Project, and then again in Cincinnati. And you have since just gone forward, writing a book called Full Circle. You're an author.
Yes.
I'm so proud of you. I will never forget. I'll never forget the day in Cincinnati when we were on the boat, and you're telling me about your book that you're writing, and you finished it. Could you possibly tell on the radio the people about what the book is about?
Sure. Happy to. Well, the book covers my arrest, my wrongful arrest, my conviction, the time that I spent in the penitentiary, what I do now, and it also goes into a lot of the political ramifications of my cases, including the fact that eventually my district attorney was brought up on charges by the state bar of California. I tried to take my readers through the entire situation from beginning to end. Everybody's wrongful conviction is different, but yet everybody's wrongful conviction is the same in certain ways. And I wanted to really explain it for the readers for a couple of reasons. One, I don't ever want this to happen to anybody else. And secondly, I think people really need to see behind the scenes of the criminal justice system and to understand it. Otherwise,
that's where David comes in.
Yeah, we're never going to get justice back. And we don't have justice right now.
No, we will. We're working on it.
Absolutely, we all are, as hard and fast as we can.
People like David Irons. He's on the phone right now. He believes that we have the power to get our rights back, and I believe in it too. I don't think there's no ending, Gloria. It's so difficult. Could you tell me how long you were in prison for wrong arrest?
Mm-hmm. Sure, but before I do that, I want to comment on what you said about getting the system back. And we absolutely do have the power to do that, and it's very simple. It's called a vote. If you don't vote in any election, regardless of whether it's, state, county, federal, whatever it might be, you're basically fulfilling somebody else's agenda. But the people that are in charge that have done the things to us that we have all suffered from, we voted them in, we can certainly vote them out. I think our biggest problem was that we elected people, we trusted them to get it right, and then we learned that we were mistaken. I hate to go back to the Romans, but it's really true. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we need to pull the system back and make it work for us, the average person living in this country.
Well, that's an interesting point, Gloria. But one question is that it's so difficult for the average voter to get any information on their local district attorney, their local judge, certainly not any negative information. I have a website which I'm using to try to change that. But do you have any thoughts on that? How do you choose a good district attorney? How do you choose a good judge? Because frankly, I should know, and I'm about as well aware as anyone out there, and I still have a difficult time, even when I'm dealing with those same judges on a fairly regular basis.
Actually, having watched all the debates and all the political propaganda until my eyes are now starting to cross, I've come to believe that you can skip the debates, the public posturing, and a lot of things, and just do a little research online. Because with the advent of online research, you can find out so much. For example, let's say you want to look up a California judge. Well, you Google their name and you do all that kind of thing. But you can find ways to find out decisions they might have made Now, we're talking about appellate court judges. There are websites for the appellate court, the Supreme Court, the federal courts. You can find somebody's entire voting history. You can find their entire legislative history. We're talking about a legislator. You can find pretty much the entire history and political stance of anybody that you want to. The more you watch what's presented on television, I swear, the more confused you get, and the more they make it up as they go along, which I really don't understand.
Which is why I prefer the Internet as a source of information.
Yes. Prosecutors are awful. They're in public defenders. They're against you. And in lawyers, they got the big old houses. There's a brand new court building in Arizona. And Gloria, you know my case is out of AZ, out of Maricopa County.
Right.
Sheriff Joe Arpaio is 82, running for sheriff. And I talked to his publicist, Lisa Allen, and like David said, it doesn't matter. He's probably got Alzheimer's. I don't want to say anything mean about somebody, but the guy is. They put him as a puppet on TV, but 15 minutes on Fox News makes a big difference. And I'm not going to bash Sheriff Joe Arpaio because he's done a good job and he's tried. But it's
well, he's done some things that I think people admire about there. People seem to be very much applauding his stance on illegal immigration.
Yeah.
However, there are so many people that have the presumption that the harder you are on prisoners, the more you're going to deter crime. And that is absolutely not the truth at all. Treating people in inhumane ways certainly is not a deterrent. As a matter of fact, it's a college for crime.
He kills dogs. He kills the dogs. You could smell them in Tent City. And you know, I had 1 day left to live. I had no food. There was a dead mouse in the Lambo bag. I can't tell you, 143 degrees, cold in the winter. Arnold Schwarzenegger stopped Tent City after the first rainfall. And Sheriff Joe has gotten away with so much. And I know
unfortunately, we do need to sort of bring about a change of consciousness because right now people have a very distorted view about what the criminal justice system should be all about. And I think that it's possible to bring about that change of consciousness, to make people aware. And one of the things that we can do is tell stories like yours, Allison, and yours, Gloria. I mean, you know, here's an ordinary suburban mom that suddenly is caught up in this system and has their life destroyed. It's not somebody else. It's not some horrible person that you can imagine, but you know, it's your son or your daughters. It could be you that is caught up in this system. 1 in 100 people in this country are incarcerated. That's the highest rate of incarceration in the world.
How did it affect your family?
Well, they all died while I was locked up, with the exception of my uncle, who was 85 when I was released. It was devastating, of course. I was divorced. I didn't have children. But my aunts, my uncles, all of them, they were all devastated. Luckily, I mean, my family always totally supported me. They knew that there was no way that I had done this. But I think that 85% of all female prisoners, at least in California, are mothers. And that's another facet of the situation that we need to take a different look at. Because of the fact, whatever you did, Allison, whatever I did, let's assume let's take the hypothetical and say we each had 5 kids, okay? You were totally innocent. I did something terrible. Nothing that either one of us did is the fault of our children. And that's one of the ways that we need to make sure that people understand. The children are victims of the system. When you have a system that strives to destroy their connection to their parents, people are incarcerated for what may very well be the worst thing they've ever done in their life. Or it could be for something stupid. Or it could be for something they didn't do at all.
17 and a half years? You were in prison?
Yes. But during that time...
Can you tell people that you are like a normal human being and you never killed anybody and you spent 17 and a half years in prison?
Well, I was actually lucky I didn't get executed because that's what they tried to do to me. I faced the death penalty twice. Even when they knew that they had come up with a phony story, I was still charged with the death penalty. Fortunately, I got from under it.
Did you sue and get any money?
I can't. My case is all prosecutorial misconduct. And you cannot sue a prosecutor for anything he does. And now that the U.S. Supreme Court has decided Thompson versus Keine, nobody can sue the prosecutor ever unless they can show
wrong. I read an article today in the newspaper that someone sued. Somebody sued.
Under the decision of Thompson versus Keine, no one can sue without being able to establish a pattern of conduct that goes back through a long history of cases.
Excuse me, but Connick versus Thompson also said no matter how many times you can prove they do this over and over and over, you still cannot sue them. Gloria, this is Ron Keine. How the hell are you?
Hey, Ron, how are you?
Pretty good. I haven't seen you in a while.
Thanks for joining us, Ron.
Little tiny area left in Thompson versus Keine.
Ron, the last time I saw you was at 4 in the morning with Gloria in Cincinnati.
No, that was impossible because the bar closed about 2. But we were the last ones there. There were a few of us that closed that bar.
Okay. Well, okay, I'm mistaken.
Well, I don't know. Whatever time the bar closes in Ohio, I don't know. Whatever time that was. There were about 5 or 6 of us they kind of asked to leave.
Yeah. The thing with Thompson versus Keine is that it's once again Anton Scalia on this high horse that he has, which has nothing to do with reality. He's the one who said if there's ever an innocent person found to be in prison, you should shout it from the rooftops. Well, we've been shouting it from the rooftops forever. And the fact that you left one tiny little alleged way to sue under Thompson versus Keine, which is actually impossible, does not clear the fact that you've basically given these people absolute immunity to do whatever they want for the rest of their terms in office, and they will.
Yes,
it's like giving a 5-year-old a knife and saying, well, don't stab them too deeply. It's insane. If you do not have consequences, there are people that are going to cross those lines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just that simple. There have to be consequences for everybody.
It's horrific.
Yeah.
But I just can't. I can't wait to read your book, Gloria. Could you name your book again?
It's called Full Circle, and it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, World Books, and in local books as well. And if you can't find the link, go to my website, which is acwip.net. It stands for the Action Committee for Women in Prison.net, and the link is right there on the front page.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is go buy your book because I've told you I'm going to buy your book, and my book has been out forever. And
yes, I read yours.
It's called BackSPIN.
I read it.
www.backspin.com. You can buy it anywhere you want. But it's not the same as your story.
No.
I mean,
That's not.
they're very, I can't fathom meeting someone as nice as you, and how, and here, I talked to Audrey last week.
Mm-hmm.
We interviewed her. How you come out normal out of the unjust system in America and not want to like blast anyone away or anything or do something stupid.
Well, the thing is, Gloria, are you normal or do you have any residual effects?
I was waiting for someone to define that for me, Ron. Probably wouldn't be you, would it?
I mean, we need a lot of people who've been wounded by the system and hurt, and it just doesn't go away when you walk out of that cell block.
No, it doesn't. In fact, today we were on my radio show, which is Women Behind the Wall, on Blog Talk Radio. We were talking about the 3 strikes and the third strikers who've been in for about 16 years when this law was passed in California. And post-traumatic stress disorder is a very real thing.
It's traumatic. But I looked up to you, Gloria. I looked up to you as a hero, and like Ron, because you move on. Audrey is one of and Julie that we had on the show. They just move on, and you guys are.
I don't think that's true, Allison and Ron. I think you should jump in here too.
Well, I'm kind of like, you're pushing your book. That's why I've been kind of shutting up here.
No. Well, then go buy the book, Ron. But seriously.
Hey, send me the book. I'll send you one of mine.
Okay, but let's get to this issue here.
Ron, you wrote a book?
There's 9 books out with me in it, and 2 of the people actually conferred with me before they put the book out about me.
Well, that's shocking, isn't it?
The 2 of them actually did. Some of the other ones are just, they're incredible. They're just nowhere even close to what the truth of the story is.
No.
They just do that.
I just want to hear about your Coca-Cola commercial in Europe. You know what? you okay? Because you and my buddies were there, and I didn't get to be there.
All right, myself, Suja Graham, Ray Crone, and Derek Jameson.
Okay.
I want to know if we want to do a Coca-Cola commercial, and I asked one thing. Well, basically, can we get our word out? Are we just going to be stupid things in a movie, or are we going to be able to say something to get the word out about who we are and what we're doing? Mm-hmm. And that, and the fact they said they give us $10,000 each, well, that kind of cinched it.
Yeah, you think?
So they took us over there, and they gave us a limo, which Madonna just got out of the week before, and they took us all around to these. We were supposed to do this walk. It's a religious pilgrimage called the El Camino de Santiago de Compostela, which means the road to St. James, in the campus under the stars, basically, field of stars, Stephen. So anyway, it's a 600-kilometer walk, and they videotaped us doing this walk for 600 kilometers, which is, it's not the way it really happened. We'd go to one town, tape for about 2 hours, jump in the limos, and go about 100 miles to another town. Mm-hmm. They show us walking throughout the thing. We didn't walk the whole thing. We stopped at a bar here and there, and I mean, we had some fun too.
It makes for nice film, though.
Yeah, that's funny. They're filming the 4 of us walking up to a cantina. And about 8 times they did this. When we get to the door to touch the door handle, they yell, cut, cut. And we got to do it again and again and again. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So Derek Jameson's leading this time. They're taking turns who's leading the group. I said, Derek, when you get to that door, open it because we're going in to get a beer. So they yelled, cut, cut. We kept going. We went right into the bar. I speak a little Spanish, so I'm ordering beers for everybody. everything. And here comes this guy, Hector. Hector is assigned to us. He's our, say, protocol officer, whatever. He's assigned to us to liaison whatever we want. He's supposed to go get us. He even asked us if we want drugs. We said, no, that's all right. You know, we're not going to do that. Anything we want. So he comes in there. He says, hey, the film's not over. That you weren't supposed to come in here. I said, well, we're having a beer. He says, what am I supposed to do? I says, well, you can go over there and pay for him. So he did. So then the director comes in and he says, what's up? Are you guys quitting? I says, no. You know, we've been doing this, you know, hours and hours and hours in this hot sun. I don't know how you guys do it here, but in America, we like beer. So that was just one of the cute things. But we did the commercial, and basically we got our anti-death penalty word out to over 500 million people because it went to all the Spanish-speaking countries, all the Spanish-speaking countries. That was neat. Oh, yeah.
That was great. Great.
Well,
let's back up for a minute.
My daughter and I are against the death penalty.
Well, hopefully, I wouldn't talk to you.
My daughter she's 18. She's got a full ride at U of M, and we barely even there's no A or B. There is no death penalty. We don't believe in it. So if people believe in the death penalty, then go for it, you know? But I don't know. That's not my forte.
Well, my biggest concern is if somebody's put to death, first we want to make sure that the person is actually guilty of something. And with such a huge number of people in jail that are innocent, then we have a very good chance of putting an innocent person to death.
And, we already have. We already have several times. And Ron, you should probably address this more than me since I managed to be for that penalty, but there are innocent people on death row right this minute. And there are innocent people that have been executed. So how can you live with that possibility?
Well, 300 people so far have been freed just by the Innocence Project alone, using 300. 300 people that they have freed. Now, these are people that were freed with DNA. They get thousands a year requests. I mean, they just don't have the staff to do that many. Right now, we've got 141 men and one woman who have been freed from death row, exonerated completely, found out they were innocent. We have several other ones, people that were killed. We have Ruben Cantu, Carlos de Luna, Todd Willingham is one everybody knows about recently, Troy Davis. We've got a lot of people that were innocent, and some of them they actually did find out that they were innocent after they killed them. We've got the cases of William Marion and Charles Hudspeth. These two guys, these cases were about 5 years apart, two different states. What links these two cases is both of these men were tried, convicted, and executed for a murder. And within 1 year, in both of these cases, the murder victim was found to be walking around alive and breathing. Now, how can Scalia say there's never been an innocent person killed?
I don't know.
Gloria, you're the lead guest. Could you continue with how close you were to the death penalty?
Actually, it's a little bit difficult to speculate on that, but what I can tell you is that I was charged with the death penalty the first time. The case was thrown out because there was no evidence against me. The second time that I was arrested, it was based on the fact that one of the perpetrators had been arrested. He was tried and convicted, and he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. The day he was sentenced, he went back to the jail, picked up the phone, called the district attorney and said, I can help you. They took him back to court and they recalled his sentence. And they did many, many other things. He could have sex with his wife, see his kids, go to dinner, blah, blah, blah. They treated him like he was one of them. The first person he testified against was his own cousin, who was convicted and sentenced to death because this witness said that his cousin was the shooter. Now, there was a change in California law right after that, which took my particular case out from under the death penalty because it had to do with your activity in the crime itself, quote unquote. In other words, I couldn't get death because I had not been a participant in any way, shape, or form, and they couldn't even prove that I knew that they were going to be armed or that there would be a killing. But considering that my co-defendant wound up on death row, considering the lies that my district attorney told during my trial, considering the fact that they used so much false evidence against me, had the law not changed, I think I would have ended up on death row right along with the co-defendant. Because the other interesting thing about it is the DA just really seemed to hate me. That's kind of weird. He was known in Sacramento as the Nazi because he was such a self-righteous, I don't know, maniac, for lack of a better term. I think that the odds are very, very good that I would have been sentenced to death. And the odd thing about this case, which was People versus Carlos, is that 8 years later, the Supreme Court reversed themselves again. And so, therefore, I was once again eligible for the death penalty. But with the rabid disregard for the truth that he displayed in my case, I think I probably would have been sentenced to death. It's possible I wouldn't have because there was so little evidence to show my participation in this case. That's because I didn't do it, obviously. I couldn't find anything.
I couldn't imagine what you want.
I don't know what the jury would have done. They might have not given me the death penalty, but it's at least probably 60-40 that I would have gotten death.
You got 17 and a half years of prison.
Yes. Well, my sentence was 32 years to life.
While these sheriffs are eating at PFJ.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
No, they don't eat at Dunkin' Donuts anymore. They eat at PFJ. And do you know who they don't want in their jails? Are like the crack addicts and the meth addicts and people that have no money, people that have no parents. And this is the word out, David, I want to get out. People that have money or have a life, they ruin their lives forever.
Well, you know, there's some very disturbing laws that are being enacted around the United States, in which the prisoners are asked to pay compensation for room and board at the prison. And you know, this may sound fairly innocent after all. You know, save the taxpayers' money, but after a while, it gets very clear that, look, we can make some pretty good money by arresting people that have a little bit of money. So there is a perverse incentive to, instead of going after crackheads, to go after people that have some resources. They got money in the bank. True. They've got savings. They've got,
you're absolutely right, David.
And they could bring an awful lot of revenue that way.
Yeah.
Inevitably, that is what happens whenever this type of legislation is enacted.
Well, the prison industrial complex already hauls in. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
It's a huge growth industry, isn't it? It's really the only growth industry in the U.S.
There we go.
Yep.
We need to track that. It's a multi-billion-dollar business.
If you look into the private prison industry, I mean, that's fascinating. When they sent out that letter 6 months ago to governors of every state, actually, I'm sorry, I think they only sent the letter to 42 governors of 42 states, in which they said, we will take over your entire correctional system. We'll actually pay you to do it, and all you have to do is guarantee us 90% placement, for lack of a better term, for the next 10 years. And cash-strapped states are looking at this and going, well, maybe. You know, I have to admire a couple of the governors who stood up and said, absolutely not. But the fact remains, it's a very attractive incentive for a state that is drowning in debt and that can't really manage its correctional system anyhow. Why not?
Well, California is a bit more liberal than Michigan is getting so bad. Oh my, Ron, you know Michigan's bad.
Well, Michigan, as we speak right now in this session, the legislature is discussing a compensation bill. It might work, it might not. The problem with bills like that is they never have any teeth. They don't have any. There's no teeth in it. Basically, they can say, okay, exoneree gets so much money per year, but they just don't give it to them. They say, okay, I don't care what the law says, sue me. It's the only way you're going to get it. You're going to spend 10 years getting it. Or they'll do the legislation. There's so many loopholes to jump through that most people can't do it. Some of them, a few of them in the southern states say for the first prerequisite you have to be pardoned by the governor. But the governor will tell you, well, if you have to admit you did it. If you don't admit you did it, I can't pardon you.
Exactly. If you said, this is what I did. I took a plea. Gloria, you know my story.
And you realize that most people do end up taking a plea bargain because they're bribed, they're coerced, and they're literally tortured into accepting a plea. And if they do not accept the plea, they pile more years on. They pile more charges. And of course, they also point out that particular prosecutor has 98% prosecution rate with jury trials and such. They take great pride in
my gosh.
the plea bargaining system is terribly corrupt and a huge subject in itself. Gloria, do you have any comments on the plea bargaining system?
Absolutely. Because of the fact, thank you, David.
I had a feeling you would.
Yeah. Oftentimes, the reason that this gets to be such a murky morass is that oftentimes the plea bargain is the best thing you can do for a particular client. Unfortunately, we've come so far from the basic problem is that we're no longer looking for justice. We're looking for quick convictions. We're looking to clear our court calendars. We're looking to get promoted. We're looking for a lot of other things rather than for justice. And that is what drives the system in the direction that it's going. But oftentimes, a person is free, and it may be a great deal. You know, I know a couple of people that took a plea bargain for 25 years to life for murder. And believe me, it was a really good deal. You have to, but the system has become so perverted. Right, Alison, but to analyze the system, you have to look at the guilty, the innocent, and the in-between in order to figure out how to develop a better system. And that's where the plea bargaining system came from. But you
have to order your records. I should have got my records. I should have got the dispatch because I was innocent. And it's cost taxpayers millions of dollars.
Yeah, therein lies another problem, which is actually getting any useful records from the prosecutor, because so often they obfuscate the information.
She lied. The public defender lied to me. Jamie Nolan, her husband at the time, James Nolan, lied, and Terry Drobin lied.
Mm-hmm.
And Judge McVeigh, they saw my huge house. They saw dollar signs.
Yeah. The whole system is based on lies. Just as you were mentioning a few minutes ago. I mean, look at the plea bargaining system. You are required to go in front of a judge and lie. You are required to go in front of a judge and lie and say you're guilty of something that you didn't do. And even if you are guilty of something, you are not guilty of that particular crime that you're plea bargaining to, because you are plea bargaining to a reduced sentence, and the judge is required to put on the record that you were under no pressure to do that you're doing of your own violation, that you're telling the truth, you're testifying under oath. And a system like that, how could you expect anybody to come out of that system and not be a pathological
You also
liar?
have to testify that you were promised nothing.
Yes.
You have to tell them.
The whole process is a lie.
Look, Ron, I was a tennis pro
I know.
for 25 years. If I go out and teach someone tennis, I'm not going to teach them how to hit the ball at the bottom of the court of the net. Now, I'm a USPTA certified tennis pro for 25 years. I started playing tennis at 3 years old, and I'm 48 right now. Now, why on earth, how do they look themselves in the mirror? How can they lie and tell you we're going to? They let me go to the Hamptons.
You know, that's a good point. And in order to live with yourself, when you're in a system like that, you have to convince yourself that those people that you're dealing out there are scum, that they are not your people. Essentially, really, in a very real sense, I'm a human being and they're not. Those people that I'm putting away are animals. And unless you have adopted that sort of mindset, then I don't see how you could really cope in a system like this. And whether you're a prison guard, whether you're a prosecutor, a judge, anybody in that system has to eventually, at some point, come to terms with your lack of humanity. Gloria, do you have any comments on that?
I was dead. I was dead. I was dehydrated. The girls had to carry me. And I mean, it's really hard for me to talk about it.
Yeah, people, the life expectancy in prison is not very high.
It was county jail. It was Tin City with Sheriff Joe.
Mm-hmm.
I had nothing to eat for 12 days, and I'm anorexic, and I've been anorexic my whole life. So, you know what? They needed to knock it off.
Uh-huh.
Give me some water. Give me some Kool-Aid. Not a dead mouse.
Alison, do you have a question that you're asking?
I think that I do like Mike Schaefer for Arizona, but I'm biased. I think Camille Tilly has gone through hell, and her husband. The Innocence Project has really helped out. Ron, what do you think?
Well, on what? What do I think about what, Alison?
Well, we went through an awful lot of things. You know, I do have a question for you, and this is a tough one, Gloria. But many of our witnesses have reported rape, sexual abuse, while they're in prison, and in your research and in your experience, it must be far more prevalent than the average person thinks. But how prevalent is this? How many people are sexually abused while they're in prison? Can we get an idea of the scope of the problem?
No, my case wasn't sexually abused. My case was a child abuse case. And
yeah, but we're talking about the abuse that you received while you were in prison.
It's on dispatch. He knew where my daughter was. I got the tape. he knew where my daughter was the whole time. Sheriff Anthony Rogers. And he's making me look through my house. I mean, my daughter was, if you look at
we had the highest rate of Protestant ministers being walked out of the institution for sexual abuse in the entire state of California. As long as the administration allows it, it's going to happen. It's just that simple. I'd like to go back to the subject of food items for just a second, David, because...
Okay, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear anything for about 3 minutes there. I'm not sure what was going on, but during that 3 minutes, were you able to hear... Okay, that's too bad. I think I didn't record it either. There seems to be a problem with my computer. Anyways, Gloria, I'm sorry.
When you have to watch 6 women go at it at the same time, it's so awful.
Anyways, Gloria, what did I miss? I'm sorry, if you could give me a...
Well, you had asked about sexual misconduct, and I simply said that I was incarcerated in the only women's prison in the state that was nationally known as the prison where sexual abuse was rampant. It was actually joked about in the World Human Rights Report on women in prison. It went on for years, and the sad part about it is you can sit there and you can watch the predators cut out the prey. And when you have a female population that is, about 85% of all women in prison have been abused in some way or other.
85%?
Yes. And then you actually have people in charge that are abusive. I mean, the results are going to be pretty obvious. We are the only prison in the state of California that went through 9 Protestant chaplains in a row. They were all walked off for inappropriate sexual behavior. And it's only recently that that's actually become a felony. Because at one time, what happened was if a staff had a sexual liaison with an inmate, she went to jail. He went to maybe a couple of weeks of layoffs, and that was it, and they sent him to another prison. Fortunately, that was all changed by our first male warden. And now it is considered a crime. Staff has actually been arrested for it. But until you change the culture from the top, it isn't going to change.
Well, I think one thing that we should do is give credit. So when there actually has been reform that has been successful, at least we need to give those prison administrators credit for doing something that was successful,
Absolutely.
or at least trying and moving in the right direction. Now, sometimes we have to look a long time to try to find some sign of improvement, but it doesn't help to just simply criticize. We have to applaud people's efforts when it is when they are doing their best.
Our female warden was John Dovey, and he was the person who put a stop to it. All our female wardens never helped us. And thanks to John Dovey, he actually arrested people for doing this. And then the director, the Secretary of Corrections in California now, Matt Cate, they simply don't tolerate this any longer. The problem, though, is you have to be able to get to them in order to, it's a coercive system. It's sometimes hard to get people to help you, but they've definitely tried to make changes, and they should be applauded for that.
That's as important as anything we can discuss. And what has been successful? What has actually worked? What programs is successful? What type of processes that have been put into the system have actually worked? And I really appreciate your comments on that.
Yeah, you have to change the culture. And we all know.
I don't tell people this much. I usually save this, but since we're an adult audience here, when we first walked into death row, excuse me, Allison, let me finish this, please. When we first walked into death row, there were 4 of us. We were all convicted together. We all belonged to a motorcycle gang in California. So I mean, we weren't taking any shit off these guards in the beginning. But we walked in and they put us in this tank to hold us before they put us in our cells. And we watched two guards grab this kid. He's about 17, 18 years old. He was raped. And he was screaming and yelling about that. So they bent him over a desk. One of the guards was holding his head down over the desk, and the other was grinding on him. Now, that's the guards were doing this to a guy who just been raped.
Yeah.
And we
this doesn't get talked about much.
They're not going to treat us like that. No way are we ever going to stand for that.
Well, we have made the commitment to expose the criminal justice system along with all its warts and all its scars. So as difficult it is to talk about something like that, there's so few people that are honestly talking about some of the greatest crimes that are being committed anywhere in the world.
Did you hear what they did to Carrie Max Cook, Allison?
Forever.
Anybody know about Carrie Max Cook, what they did to him?
I do.
That was terrible. They raped him repeatedly. They took a knife and carved good P-U-S-S-Y in his back. The scars are there to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens in there.
And, I mean, what were the cops doing while they were carving on him, for heaven's sake?
Well,
sometimes the guards they were asked to look the other way because we're going to do something to somebody, and the guards do that because they're buying drugs from the guards. There's all kinds of graft and scams going on with the guards there, and a lot of that stuff would not happen unless the guards let it happen.
Of course, and you're absolutely right. And your statement makes the perfect commentary. You and your three, I guess they were co-defendants, but you were all from the motorcycle gang. You know, you were a little bit tougher. You were a little bit harder. You've been around. Whereas
you weren't even in the same state, Ron.
And you had a support system too. You had other people in that prison that were your confidants, your cohorts.
Oh yeah. It made a big difference walking in there. You know, we're four over one. We're the four musketeers. You mess with one.
It's better than being by yourself.
Confidence.
And if you're a member of a gang, you're in a much higher, much more prestigious position if you go to prison.
No, but you're safer.
I went up 7 times for assault on a guard. 7 times up there at a little kangaroo court.
Yep.
And every time they started it. They started
for having a pencil?
No,
this is assault. Guy's got to do.
Well, you wake up in the morning sometimes, you had a bad night, your guard walks by, looks like he needs to be bitch slapped, and shit happens.
No.
It gets boring. You know, sometimes you do something. To be honest with you, almost every time that happens.
That's not a strategy I would recommend.
Almost every time it was a payback. David, you're on death row. You got a 24/7 lockdown. We never got out. We never got showers. We never got exercise. We did that all the time. Anything, even for the goon squad to pull you out and beat the crap out of you was something different. It was okay.
Now, I'm a martial artist. I'm not saying that I don't admire that. I'm just saying it's not a strategy that I would recommend.
Hey, what discipline? I got 23 years of it. What discipline, David?
I practice at Michigan State University. It's called Pukang Tung Sudo, the art of fighting with hand and fist, a Korean form of karate.
Okay.
So I take it you are also a martial artist?
23 years. I've done 13 different forms. I taught for the last 5 years, and I quit. I just got too old, and young kids were beating the crap out of me in the ring all the time. And it was time for me to go out to pasture.
Yeah, I kept dislocating my back, so I think I pursued that too long.
I know enough to cream them every time, but they know all they got to do is stay away from me, and in about 2 minutes, I'm tired.
Well, I'm not moving again because my back's killing me.
But again, think of the difference going to prison with your background and being who you are, or being a 17-year-old kid who knows nothing. Or a 40-year-old woman who doesn't know.
And of course, those are the people that are most likely to be victimized in prison. The ones that can be intimidated, the ones that show fear. And if you walk in and you're a martial artist, and people just know, they know the difference. And Ron, I'm sure you know that it's just a matter of your attitude and the way that you carry yourself. People just know that you don't intimidate somebody like that, and it's very unlikely that somebody with that kind of confidence is going to become victimized. So it ends up being the persons that least deserve it, the ones that are in there for nonviolent crimes, the young, the innocent, the most defenseless people in prison that end up having the worst time of it.
Absolutely.
And, nobody has ever been sentenced to being raped in prison. I don't think that no judge has ever sentenced anybody to that. But it does seem to be a subject of an awful lot of jokes. Don't drop the soap in the shower, and I would give people enough credit to say that probably they're laughing because they're so uncomfortable about that.
I don't even want to joke about that. But
and why is that funny? Why is that
everybody?
funny?
Well, I don't think it is funny. I think that people laugh when it's something that really disturbs them.
You know what? I was there, and and Gloria was there, and Ron was there. It's not funny.
Well, I wasn't in the same place you girls were, but I wish I was.
Well, that would have been okay.
Go back to answer one of those card games.
You always gotta make me laugh. Okay.
But go back to the beginning when you were scared to death. This was political, and it's about money. They took the Alford plea. But what kind of a system forces a person who's been wrongfully convicted into a situation like that? Why the hell would you even think of getting an Alford plea from these people? It's as bad a miscarriage of justice as the original conviction. But it's all about politics and money. And that's where you go from there. And I just had to get that in because that thing just galled me. It's so terrible.
Yeah, and the big question is, how are we going to change the system? I think the first step is that what we're doing right now, which is creating a change in consciousness.
Radio show. I talked to Ron Johns from New Zealand today. He is doing the movie. And I do not believe we can do the movie in the United States. Maybe partial, but we need to keep doing the radio show, like Laura Caldwell is coming on next in Ziva, and the guy from Illinois, I forgot his name, but we need to continue to tell Americans, like my sister, she's an attorney. She goes, if there was a person that said, if this never happened to you, nobody would ever know. I lived the lifestyle. I worked for Merv Griffin. I worked for Johnny Carson. I lived the perfect life. I taught tennis. I played tennis. I never got in trouble. And all of a sudden, I got in trouble for something I didn't do. And I found in my friend, James Van Sauer, a judge from L.A., now from Seattle, he said, get all the records. And I believe that stupid public defender, Jamie Nolan. And I was thinking of Jess's college education, her money. Why would I pay someone $15,000 for attorney fees when I was innocent? I mean,
and that's a good point. There's a lot of people who can't even cannot even afford that. You fortunately had some money, but how many people are in jail right now because they simply had no financial resources?
Well, the thing is, I mean, financial resources are fine, but we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, my first go-round, I hired the best lawyer there was, and it cost me about $30,000, and that was all I had. The second go-round, I had them appoint, a lawyer for me, and it wasn't a public defender, it was the alternative panel. But it happened when it happened. Getting me out cost about $250,000, and that was 10 years ago. And I was lucky to have an attorney that when my friends ran out of money, he paid, and he paid, and he paid. People don't realize just how bloody much money you need to have should they even look at you cross-eyed. You need about $500,000 just to begin. And that right there is insane. And I know some really good public defenders as well as bad public defenders, but they're just so overwhelmed. I mean, the workload is insane. Yeah, and people, the average person simply can't afford it.
That's quite so. Say, we are getting near the end of the hour, and we're going to have to wrap this up pretty soon.
One more sentence. If I had it to do over again, I would have borrowed for $15,000 for James Redpath, okay? Even though I was innocent, they couldn't have taken this thing to court.
Yeah, isn't it ironic you'd think that being innocent would be a pretty good defense? But most people seem to think that they're safe, that they're not going to be victimized by this system, that the judges are honest, that the police are there to help you, that the prosecutor is there to protect the weak from the strong, and all those things are completely turned upside down in
and that's what they taught me in law school. That's the sad part. That's what they taught me in law school, was you can depend on the system, you can rely on it, you can trust on it.
And most attorneys still believe that, even though they're in the system. But unless you're actually a criminal attorney, you're not even going to see that part of the legal system. And I suppose from your perspective, things do work.
It's horrible.
Are you serious? Are you saying from my perspective, David?
No, I'm saying from the perspective of an attorney that has graduated from law school and they're working in corporate law, they're working in patents, or you would think that you would have some experience with that court system, but very often you find that even though somebody's been to law school, they've been a practicing attorney, they still have not seen that side of the legal system.
No, at least in criminal law, I mean, they're getting it. Like I said, that's not what they taught me in law school, but now in law school they teach my case. So, there's some recognition there, but the struggle is just so huge.
And of course, there's innocence projects all over the United States, including one right here in Lansing.
42 innocence projects in the country. And that's a really sad commentary that we need 42 innocence projects.
Mm-hmm. But it is a sign that we're making progress.
Oh, we are.
Gloria, thank you for being on our show.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Okay. And I hope to have you back again, because this has been an absolutely fascinating conversation. Do you have any closing remarks, Gloria?
Yes. I would like to remind people that the one weapon that we have is our vote. Whether it's a district attorney, whether it's a judge, whether it's a law that you think is unfair. That's our first line of defense, is to go out and vote. Our second line of defense is to question everything that you see and hear. And I guess my third comment would be that I'm so grateful to everybody who did listen to me, who believed that I was innocent, who helped me to prove my innocence and to get out of prison. And I'm just grateful for this opportunity to share my story and my information. So thank you very much.
Gloria, I'm so proud of you. And one last time, could you name the name of your book and website?
Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Alison. My book is called Full Circle, and it is available on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, WorldPress.com, or probably any local bookstore that you can go into, and they have most
Okay.
bookstores are carrying it.
Because
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.